Good evening, everyone. Happy Tuesday, and welcome to another edition of Dreamstruck. We are so glad that all of you are here with us. We are better together, and we always say those that show up, go up. Tonight, we have a very special guest speaker tonight that is going to be visiting with us from home office. So please be sure, if you haven't already, share the word, post this on your team pages, and let's share all of this good information with others so we can take it into our businesses and have an amazing fall season that's already in progress. So without further ado, I would love to introduce Michael Borg.
Thank you, Teresa, and thank you all for letting me come and see you guys. I'll first tell you my Scentsy story. So I worked at Hewlett-Packard for 25 years in their future products, and I loved it. It was amazing. But then how do I put this? I got a little bit bored. And then Scentsy recruited me. And so I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to go work at this different company. And I was 50. And so my grandma, she passed away at 100 years old. So I figured this is like halftime. So I decided, yep, I'm going to go to Scentsy. And I have to say, I absolutely love all of you guys. So I'm in my office. I've been at Scentsy about a week or 2 weeks at this point. And Orville and Heidi came by my office and they said, we would love for you to go to leadership, like go on a cruise. And I'm like, as part of my job, I am going on a freaking cruise. And so I thought, this is going to be amazing. They said, and we would love for you to bring your wife. And I thought, I'm going to go home. I'm going to tell my wife. And she was not signed up for this whole move thing because she thought Scentsy looked a little bit like one of those triangles. So she was not as signed up. My mom too, she was like, well, do they have insurance? I said, yes. She's like, well, are you going to be selling wax door to door? I'm like, Mom, please, you're killing me. Anyway, went to Scentsy, went on this cruise. And I said, okay, so as I go, like, what's going to be my job? And they said, your job is going to be to get to know the consultants. I'm like, okay. So I went home, told my wife, like, we get to go on a cruise for work. And she said, no, I'm not going. Like, no way. And I'm like, why would you not want to go on a cruise? She's like, not going. Now, my wife does not like answer the door. She doesn't like you. If you text her first and warn her, she's like a 50-50 whether she's going to pick up the phone or answer the door. But part of it was I finally figured out like what it was. She was concerned that who she is, what she's like, was going to negatively impact my job. So she didn't want to go on this cruise because her thought was at some point in the cruise, she's going to fall down the stairs, be in this big lump right at Orville and Heidi's feet. And they were all going to go, who brought this mess? Clearly they should be fired. And so I'm like, no, we're going. And I have won maybe one fight in my entire life with my wife. And that one I won. So we went on a cruise and we were going through the lobby and I didn't know anything about consultants, but I knew that one just like came up next to us in line because she was like wearing this Scentsy sweatshirt, and like the Scentsy letters were like this big. So I'm like, okay, how do I break the ice? I'm like, Scentsy! And she yelled, Spirit! And it totally scared the bejeebies out of my wife and I. Had no idea what was even going on. And so I'm like, my wife's like, what was that? I'm like, just run with it. I have no idea. So anyway, she's there. I get to know her and she turns to my wife and says, now, who are you? And my wife said something like, oh, don't worry about me. I'm just the wife. And this consultant just looked at her like, oh no, no, you didn't. Like, we are not just anything. We are strong. We are happy. We are friends with each other. Like, she tore her up in a good way. And then she left. And my wife said, I think I just found my best friend, my new best friend. And the whole week just was amazing. How consultant treated my wife and how you guys treat one another. I'll tell you what, like, I was just dumbfounded. I did not know what to even say. My wife came home, dropped her bags, called my daughter and said, you are going to become a Scentsy consultant. And I'm like, what? Who are you and what have you done with my wife? I didn't hear my daughter's side of the conversation, but she was like, oh no, the products are fine. Michael he'll do great. I want you to become a Scentsy consultant because of how consultants treat one another, how they support each other, how amazing they are. Some of them are millionaires. You just wouldn't know it. One's a goat farmer. Man, she just went and she loved it. So that is kind of my Scentsy story. And I will just tell you that as long as you guys are friends with one another and you support each other, like, I will show up at any event you want me to show up at. I will do my best to fill your Scentsy clubs full of all the right bars, like everything I can to support you. So let's get into this topic. So first of all, if you can go off mute, if you have any questions, like, just tell me, what are your expectations? What would you like to learn about today? And Scentsy Club is the best. I agree. And licensing. So that's what I do, by the way. So I run licensing in future products. Carrie Bryant, she's better than me. She runs all the home, clean, laundry, pets, like all those other things. I run like Scentsy Club and licensing. So what questions do you have about segmentation?
So I'm going to challenge our leaders to unmute themselves and answer this really great question.
And in fact, I see a question, what exactly is customer segmentation? So let me start with the basics. Now, you guys, I want you to be bold. You interrupt me at any time and ask me questions, okay? I'm not one of those guys that's like, oh, you have to hold all your questions to the end. But if somebody can just monitor like the chat, and if there are any questions, just be bold. But let me share some stuff out here. Okay. So this is customer segmentation. It is basically the art of finding all your customers and segmenting them into different groups. Now you can say all the tall guys over here, all the short females over here, all the ones with blue hair over there. Like, you can segment that way, or you can do it by like demographics, like segment based on what state they're in, or segment based on like whether they are good at mowing their lawn, right? Stuff like that. The way that we do it is based off of an industry standard best practices that segments customers into different kind of lifestyles, and we're really what drives them. I'll give you some examples. There's a couple of segments, F22, which is fast track couples, and F23, which is families matter most. They're two segments driven by families. Fast track couples, they're more about their family and how people perceive them. What's important to them is the cars that are in the driveway, with the size of the big screen TV, whether they have like all the right kind of couch and everything, where people come in and go, wow, you're well off, right? So that's one family segment, and they have one, maybe two children, and a lot of times those children are their pets, right? That's just one segment. Another segment is called F23. It's the other family segment, and everything they do is driven by the kids. What car do you drive? It's a minivan. I got to get those little beggars in and out of that thing quick. What do you do on the weekends? Whatever my kids are doing. What's your next vacation? Probably Disneyland. What do you do for game night? Well, we're going to do Chutes and Ladders because my youngest loves that game. Like, everything is driven by the family. So those are a couple of different segments of customers. And I can tell you what percent of Scentsy is each of those segments. And in fact, with the tools that we've got now in place at Scentsy, I can, if you give me a product down to the fragrance, I can tell you who buys it and what cars they drive, books they read, food they have for breakfast, whether they contribute to, causes that are the same as our cause, or
Okay,
everything.
I
I can do all those things.
Blue Grotto room spray.
Okay, Blue Grotto room spray. I will look that up in just a minute. I will tell you, but let me give you a fun Blue Grotto story. So when I'm doing licensing, we were trying to get all these different licensing people in, and one of them was Marvel. We had them come out to Scentsy. We were talking to them, and we said, hey, we need to know what kind of fragrances you like and what drives you as far as fragrance. And they're like, I got to be honest with you. Like, we're Marvel. Marvel, if you sum it up in a fragrance, it's probably Sweaty Teenager because it's Spider-Man, and that's what he's going to smell like, right? So I don't know how you guys are going to do fragrance. And I said, no, it's your brand, right? And so I was talking about heroic, but yet personable, like all these things. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to give you a bunch of fragrances, and I want you to tell me what kinds of fragrances you like. Is it more fruity? Is it clean? All those things. And so I sent him a bunch of Scentsy fragrances. They came back, and I kid you not, they legitimately pitched that they wanted Blue Grotto. They're like, we want that one. And I'm like, no, you can't have that one. That one's ours. No, what would it take for us to take over Blue Grotto? Because that, I cannot get enough of Blue Grotto. I'm like, no, you can't have that. That's our fragrance. We want one for you. And they're like, so really, how much money would it cost? And we didn't give them Blue Grotto, but that's my Blue Grotto story. But I will show you at the end, if we can pull it up, what the customers are like for Blue Grotto. Okay. Well, let's keep going on this segmentation a little bit. So how do you actually do that? Well, as you guys put people's names and their addresses in your workstation, and as they come into PWS and they say, my name's Mary, my last name's Smith, and I want this product, here's my address that you want to send it to, we send those names out to a company, and they do a couple things. First, they clean it and dedupe it. So if you look at this, think of this top one up here as like what our data looked like before we got this company and we send them our data. You've got a Mary S. You've got a Mary, only it's spelled different, Smith. You've got an MS. And then you've got these order numbers. They've come into PWS and they've said, I want Blue Grotto room spray. I want Black Raspberry Vanilla Bar. I mean, all these things. Even back to the point where Scentsy was just created, we've saved all those orders and the names and the addresses if they exist. Well, but we don't know whether Mary S., Mary Smith, or M. Smith, and even honestly Deb's mom, are the same person. We have no clue. But once we give these to this company, they clean it and dedupe it based on a number of different things: the email address, the physical address, everything. And so they show us which people are which, right? They clean our data and they dedupe it. This is why it's very important as you fill out like your contacts tab, put in as much data as you can, because that allows us to send in more customers a year to this company and get those insights back. So we send in approximately 4 million customer records a year to this company. And they come back with, okay, here are all the ones that are Mary Smith, Frank Jones, Bob Smith, and they clean it up and they show us all this stuff. And then they put these mosaic profiles on it. And then they also put in like a person ID, household ID, address ID, all this technical mumbo jumbo. And that allows us to do this. So we know what percent each of these different segments are in the United States. So for example, as far as US households, they're almost 1% is D15, called sport utility families. These are moms that trek around their kids around to like soccer events, and they all have an SUV, like every single one of them, right? And we know that that's 2.64% of our data. So because we know there's only 1% of them in the United States, there's almost 2.5%, or a little bit more than 2.5% in our data, then they index at a 3.14. In other words, they came to us more than they should. We should only have 0.84 people in our database that is a sport utility family. But because we've got almost 3%, they index really high. And so we know they love us more than a different segment. So for example, down here, this True Grit Americans, they're 2.28% of our data. They're 1.10 of the United States, so they only index it at 2 times what they should. And then you've got these others who are indexing about right? And so that helps us to know how many of our customers are out there numerically, but also how much some segments love us. Does that make sense? Okay. So with that information and those cool address IDs and household IDs, this is where it gets a little bit technical, but let's look at like this house and think of it as this is my house. 2-story house with a basement. Fred and Mary are in the top half, if you will, and Fred and Mary's kids are now in the basement with one of their children. So the address ID, there's only one address. Household IDs, there's 2 because there's Fred and there's Mary, right? Or sorry, 2 household IDs because there's 2 last names in the same home, and they're at the same address, right? So the 2 addresses of people over 18 in the house. And then person ID, there's 4. There's Fred, Mary, and their son and daughter, plus their child, but the child doesn't count because they're not over 18. So that's how this data works. And so I can, with all the data and the analytics, go out there and find out, do husbands and wives in the same address, do they purchase the same, all those things, or do we just base all of our stuff on the address, things like that. And then this company gives us a ton of data because there's a lot out there in the public domain. So because some of your information is public knowledge, then we know your age, marital status, household occupation, who is the person on the home, the credit behavior, what your income is, like all kinds of things. And then this company that we work with, they also go out and they do surveys in the United States every single year. And with those surveys, what they do is they then get different information, like, do they like yoga? Do they have a pet? How many fragrance products do they buy in a given year? Like all kinds of stuff like that, thousands and thousands of rows of data to where I can look at those based on the segment. Now, I don't get it based on you personally, but I do if like, let's say 10 of you are F23, then I know generally what those F23s, what books do they read, what cars do they drive, things like that. Okay. And so these are all those segments. It's a lot of information, but I just wanted to show you. So there's the Power Elite, there's Thrifty Habits, right? And it's largely socioeconomic, meaning these guys are falling on tough times, and these guys have more money than intelligence, right? They just both ends of the spectrum, right? And then you look at this and you can see all the different information that we have, and it's just thousands and thousands of rows of data. And for each one of those segments, we get something like this. It helps us to know this is who they are. They're young, middle-class families in scenic suburbs leading active, family-focused lives. And then it's like, how do they like to communicate? Is it email? Is it text? Is it over their computer? Is it radio, television, that kind of stuff. So we have all that information for all those people. So based on all of that, we've done a lot of segmentation. And so I wanted to give you some insights on some of the data we have. For Scentsy, 70% of our customers purchase one time a year. So say that again, 70% of our customers only purchase once a year. Those customers who do purchase more than once, let's say twice, the most frequent timing of that second order is just 7 days after the first order. So if consultants feel like, wait, I don't want to contact this person, they just ordered from me. I mean, they barely got their order. It took them 5 days to get the box. I'm going to contact them too early. Guess what? The most frequent second order is just 7 days after. And so it's right after their first order. Order size, roughly the same across everybody, is like $54, $56. Customers purchase from usually 3 or 4 product lines. And what that means is like body, clean, laundry. And within laundry, right, you've got washer whiffs is a product line. Scentsy Fresh is a product line. So they tend to order from 3 or 4 product lines. And the most frequent purchased item, big surprise, is wax. We know too that the same segments that purchase clean purchase laundry. And the way you can learn from that, or the things that you can capitalize on there, is if you know someone that buys clean and you want to get them to start buying laundry, I'm telling you here and now, give them a washer whiff packet, a sample. Because the same people that buy clean buy laundry, and washer whiffs are some of the most addictive products that Scentsy has. So you give them some washer whiffs, oh, they're going to come back. Like I'm telling you, they're going to start buying. I call it the safety, the loyalty drug, right? So same segments by purchase clean, purchase laundry. Same thing if you have someone who buys a lot of laundry, give them, and this is more spendy, but give them a thing of counter clean. I'm telling you, they're going to buy a lot more. Because counter clean is another one where you use it and you're just like, wow, that is going to be in my life for the rest. Grandmas purchase buddies and clips. So moms do too, but generally grandmothers are the ones that buy buddies for their grandkids. Mostly because of price, right? A lot of moms don't buy a $45 or $50 stuffed animal for their child. However, somebody who wants them to have a good relationship with them and they want them to have many, oh yeah, they're going to do it. And by the way, grandpas have no say in that. I'm speaking from experience. My wife does exactly what she wants for the grandkids. And yeah, I better not say anything about it. Okay. And it's a different segment for Sidekicks. And we don't have Sidekicks much anymore, but they were a different segment. Loyalty building programs. Number one, Scentsy Club. A lot of times when our business starts to taper off a little bit, we find out what are things that people do without and what are the things that they do not cancel. And our Scentsy Club has been solid, even though our business has kind of taken a turn down a little bit, by the way. Engagement, following up, lifts all products, right? So as you follow up with customers, it really does work. We know that. Laundry whiffs are one of the most addictive products we've got, but only 20% of consultants sell of them. Most valuable customers. I looked at all of this and then I said, okay, I want just customers, not consultants. And I want to know which customers spend more on Scentsy than anybody else. And then I looked for trends within those, let's say, top 100 customers tied to the Scentsy brand. And here's what I found. If you know a real estate agent, pitch this idea. I want to sell you warmers at a good price, and you can put them in homes as you show these homes. I'm going to get you a Welcome Home Bar, or I'm going to get you Blue Grotto, whatever fragrance you like that home to smell like, and you can put it in every home that you try and sell. And then when they buy that home, you give them the warmer. That helps customers because they love that real estate agent. And the realtor, these houses smell amazing and they're selling a lot. And that's what some of the most valuable customers are, real estate agents that consultants find and have that kind of a relationship. They also, the realtor starts giving them wax every single Christmas. And that's to keep them engaged in, so for the next time they buy a house, they go to that same real estate agent. Same with school fundraisers, and just looking for those people that surround themselves with Scentsy. And that means every time they buy, Scentsy is their first go-to. They have buddy collections. Every time there's a wedding gift, they give them something from Scentsy. Every time somebody has a new child, oh, let me get you something from Scentsy. Those types of things. Those are the most valuable customers out there that purchase the most. This is some of that data that shows like the most frequent purchase is day one. And then that second purchase is just 7 days away. And then it's different by segment, so, or by category. So home, it's just the 7 days, right, for the second purchase. But what about scent? Same thing. What about laundry? No, that's a little bit longer. And that's mostly because washer whiffs, you haven't gone through them very, very often. They'll last for a while. Same with clean. And these blips are, even though customers purchase, this is their first purchase, second purchase, third purchase, you can see there is a trend that a lot of people come back to Scentsy just during the holidays. So holidays are a great time to go back out and hit all those customers with, hey, just wondering if you need anything for Christmas, that kind of thing. Have you seen our harvest collection? Have you seen the new holiday? Stuff like that. Okay, so here are our consultant segments. So these are our top consultants when it comes to people that are more interested in the opportunity. People with families, young families, big draw. Same with like red, white, and bluegrass, family-centered activities, rural communities, they're racing fans. If you ask them about something, the answer is usually trucks, jeans, or work boots, right? But you can kind of see these, and I'll just put these in here. And then these are our top customers. A lot of them are the same. Families matter most, red, white, and bluegrass, those sport utility families, babies in bliss. These are families with a lot of kids. Fast track couples we talked about. 051, these are millennials. Stock cars and state parks, a little bit older, but families again. Let's see. So here's another thing. This is how we look at the overall market. Now, I'm the one that put millennial, Gen X, boomers, and silent generation down here. But the way you read this is these folks have the lowest income, this bottom line. And these up here have the highest income. These are the families with the highest income. These are the young folks. These are single and elderly, right? So it's showing a lot of things, but basically what this shows is when you're young and single, you have no money. Once you have your family and you get older, then you have a higher income, right? Generally speaking. Now, that's the entire United States mapped. And I'll show you who our consultants are. So largely young families, but there are some who are higher income and even older, right? Now, here's the top 10 Scentsy Consultant and the new Scentsy Consultants when we doubled in size through COVID are the ones outlined in green. So we got older and less income folks when we went through COVID as consultants. These are our top 10 customers. And then the red ones are the newer segments from Disney. When we got Disney, we got different customer segments. In fact, you can kind of see the ones are regular ones and then with Disney. And this maps on which ones are Star Wars and Marvel versus Disney. But you can kind of see these older families is a lot of the Star Wars and Marvel, but it also goes into younger as well. Again, these are the new ones from Disney. So where we were, new from Disney. Now this is that graph that I was talking to you about that I can go into warmers and then scent and then room sprays, things like that. And the way we use this is it helps us to know a lot of things just by looking at this at a high level. So this tells me warmers right now with this customers, we've got about 400,000 customers that this is based on. The ones who bring in the most revenue to Scentsy are the digital millennials, right? Millennials are bringing in more revenue to Scentsy than any other segment for warmers. Now the colors here, you can kind of see there's some that are kind of brown or red, and then others are deeper green. And that shows you how much revenue they're bringing in relative to their size. So in other words, digital dependents, they're bringing in some good money because they're the number one revenue person in Scentsy for warmers. And then these town elders or older folks, they still bring in a lot of revenue, but they should be bringing in a little bit more because they're not very green. And these striving single scene, they don't bring in very much revenue, and they don't necessarily like our warmers, right? That's how you would read this. Now, the other thing you look at is this overall thing is green. And what that shows you is this yellow to green is that this shows broad appeal. With all these segments bringing in revenue, we've got pretty good representation of all those segments. Whereas if you go to now scent, you see there's not a lot of green. So scent is more polarizing, and we get a lot of revenue from that, but they're from specific segments. Other segments, even though they're bringing in a lot of revenue, they should be bringing in more revenue to us. Same with room sprays. Some customers love room sprays. Others, meh, whatever. Same with pods. And then you can kind of go down this scent packs, much more broad appeal, scent circles, things like that. Now, here's another thing that you can see is when we did Your Pal Mickey and Love and Kisses mini fragrances, these are scent circles. A lot of people buy them, but they were polarizing. You either loved that fragrance or you didn't. And that's why we swapped out these fragrances. If there's two fragrances that we should have as our top fragrances, it's Mickey and Minnie. And people didn't necessarily like it. So that's why we swapped these out, is they didn't have general or broad appeal. Whereas if you look at, this is Mickey Mouse and Friends and Stitch. You can see that they have a lot of people love these. A lot of different people love these and spend a lot more money on these. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's basically how the segmentation works, but there's a number of things in here like the assembled Mickey Mouse and Minnie and Mickey, and then these are the classics. So the others had a little bit more broad appeal. The nostalgic ones, the classic ones that we've got in there, you either like them or you don't. Buddy Clips, Sidekicks. Okay, here's Marvel. What you can see is Spider-Man, pretty good broad appeal, but generally these things are like it or you don't. But Groot as a buddy was much more popular. And here's kind of warmers for all of Marvel. Or sorry, these are wall fan diffusers. Wall fan diffusers up top are Spider-Man, Spider-Man warmer, about the same, Iron Man, Captain America, the Marvel warmer, and Thor's hammer. But in essence, we use a lot of this data to then dive in and start looking at these segments like this, right? These are the people who buy our buddies. They're older. They've got 2-3 people in there, but a lot of them grandparents, and that's why they're buying it for their grandkids. Okay, I've been talking a lot, so I'm going to stop there. What questions do you guys have about customer segmentation, how we use it, and how you can use it? Any questions?
I know that there's a lot of questions that came through the chat. And so We're going to make this a little interactive tonight. It is going to be obviously an hour long this evening. And so I would like for the first person to just unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question and then mute yourself again so we can answer. Who wants to start?
I'll bring something up. I noticed there was a question in the chat. Someone asked about how we go into deciding whether or not certain fragrances stick around or not. Is this all part of that, whether or not they have a broad appeal? So if a fragrance is discontinued and doesn't come back, is that generally understood to be that it just didn't have that broad appeal you were talking about?
Not really. So I will tell you that for Disney and the Marvel, the licensing, we try really hard to use this data to figure out like what kinds of fragrances. And so we'll go through with the fragrance folks within Scentsy and we'll say, hey, we want a fragrance, for example, Star Wars. We are going to have two fragrances. One's going to be light side, one's going to be dark side. And when worn together, they're going to create balance in the force. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's the coolest thing ever. By the way, Star Wars loved that idea, right? But those fragrances have to be amazing. And they have to have broad appeal, because if they're polarizing, then you're going to come in, you're going to say, oh my gosh, I really want a Darth Vader buddy. But it comes with that stinky pack, right? And so we wanted to have that to have broad appeal. And so what we did is we used this data to show the fragrance folks within Scentsy, here's some of the fragrances that have broad appeal with the customer segments that are Star Wars fans. And they're like, shut the front door. Easy. And so what they were able to do is go through and look at those fragrances that had broad appeal to those segments. And then we came out with light side and dark side. People loved them and they had that broad appeal. So that's more licensing. I will tell you on the Scentsy side, it is largely based on sales. Like if you guys go out there and it's something that just blows the doors off, that fragrance is going to live, right? Or it's going to come back in the spring. If it's a fall fragrance, oh yeah, it's going to keep coming back because it's going to sell. So for Scentsy fragrances, it's more, what's coming in, right? Is it selling? But on licensing, we have to take a different approach to make sure that it doesn't turn somebody off. I'll give you one more example. We did the princess fragrances and we did the princess scent circles, right? We had Belle, we had Ariel, all these things. Those fragrances, the scent circles were in the top 6 scent circles we had. But the waxes were in the bottom 10. So the reason people were buying those is because they wanted the visual. They didn't want the fragrance in their car. And so we were like, time, we're going to get some of those fragrances. Now there's another strategy that we could do, and that is, Scentsy fragrances with Disney IP on the scent circles. And so we're talking with Disney and Marvel and Star Wars and Harry Potter, all those teams, about whether we can do that. But that's another example. We just want that fragrance to have broad appeal, or the Disney IP, the Harry Potter, it's going to turn them off. And they're like, nope, thought I wanted the Hedwig buddy, but now I don't, right? Doesn't smell right. Good question.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. And I don't know if anybody else has a question or wants to pop on.
Another question was, is this information available on an individual consultant basis? I know the answer, but I'll let you respond, Michael.
On an individual consultant basis, meaning what do they have on me personally? Is that what the question is?
Like, I'm a consultant. Can I see my customer segmentation to see can I run a report to see who my current demographic is? Like, is it the mom?
That is a great question. And the answer is no, we don't have that capability today. But I would love to understand, like, what is the best Well, I'll just bottom line it for you. I'm going to try and push for anything that will help you as consultants. I told you that before. I'll push for anything that's going to help you out. So if there's something that will help you, then I'll try and put it out there. So it could be a report based on like different products that you could put in a SKU, and then it kind of shows you what kind of segments maybe that they are or something. I know it's not as complex as all the stuff that I pour through every day, but if you guys can help me to understand the kinds of things that I can provide you, I'd love to provide it. But today, no, it's not like I want my customers, because then it just gets too granular and it might not be representative.
So here's what's interesting is that data, which is really mind blowing. All of us are kind of chatting like, wow, this is really great information that we didn't even know was collected. But everything that you shared already today, it applies to us. It is information about all of our customers, and I'm assuming it's global and not just here in region 1. And so anyone that's on this call listening is saying, okay, well, how can we apply this to our business? I think what it does is it lets us know that as we're marketing the new LTOs or the buddies that are coming out, that there is a specific audience that might be more apt to placing an order with you. However, it also identifies a gap that says, we know that grandmothers love purchasing buddies for, their grandkids, but it's also our reach. Who are we reaching out to mostly? And so it really gives us an opportunity and a challenge to say, can we get out of the truck jeans and work boots, demographic and invite them. I know even with Disney and some of the licensed products like Star Wars, for many of us, it brought in a very new demographic, like the men, my husband's coworkers, they just wanted all things Star Wars. So I wanted to ask you this, knowing this information, how does Scentsy go about creating new partnerships to expand outside of the current demographic based on these numbers?
It's a great question. Let me first, one thing that you mentioned. So this data is US based. So
Okay.
even Canada is it's close. The companies we work with, they're like, yeah, Canada's almost exactly like the United States, right? That kind of thing. And then there's conversion tools that kind of expand out to region 2 and region 3. But for the most part, this is for the United States.
Okay, that's good.
So you mentioned, how do we kind of figure out how to expand our base? There's a couple of different things there. I will tell you that it's a lot more expensive and a lot more difficult to go get a new customer than to sell an existing customer something else that they might like, right? That clean and laundry thing. If you have a customer that loves one of the Pets products, I'm telling you, sell them more of the Pets products. That's always an easier sell than going to some segment that we don't even know, that have never even heard of us, and try and sell them Scentsy. So generally within the United States, the awareness of someone who is even kind of unaided fragrance, who puts Scentsy on the list that they know of, 50%. So even within the United States, we only have 50% awareness. So there's still a lot that we can expand, but it's much, much easier to go after those existing customers. Now, we tried with Skin and Groom to do just that. We wanted it more elevated. For those of you who have been around a while, it was like a number, and it was kind of a Sephora thing, and did not work, right? They wanted the same stuff they get, very similar stuff to Bath and Body Works. Like, that's what they wanted. And so we found that out, and then we went after those segments. So that's always easier, is to sell your existing customers more and your existing circle to get them more excited about Scentsy. Now, I will say this, a lot of people like, how do I target Marvel fans? Because I want to sell more Marvel. That's a tough one, right? Because you don't necessarily know who they are unless they show up wearing a Marvel shirt, things like that. But the general rule is when you only have a hunch, send out to a bunch. So as you guys try and market, this whole cast the net broader is the best way to do it. When we came up with Star Wars, I asked a lot of the consultants, like, are you seeing different customers? I'm seeing a lot of different customers, but the vast majority is same person, but I haven't heard from them in years. Or same customer, she buys from me all the time, but her phrase was, my husband finally wants something from Scentsy. Things like that. So you're expanding in that same family or that same group of friends. That's typically the best and easiest way to go to expand your market.
That's wonderful. And I think NFL did that for us too. It really opened up a huge door that we didn't have before having that contract. So I love that. Now, Alyssa mentioned, I don't know if you want to unmute yourself, Alyssa, but I heard a few times, I read in the chat that at Scentsy Family Reunion, that there was a report that was provided there that really helped consultants identify which, I guess, product line they were excelling in. So Alyssa or someone, would you like to unmute yourself and kind of explain what that report was?
Yeah, it was the report kind of showed how you compared to the rest of the people in your paid at title group. And then also how you compared to what you sell the most of and what you maybe sell the least of. Mine was kind of a realization to me that I don't sell a lot of cleaning products. But I felt like I had been selling a lot of cleaning products because that's all I use half the time is the cleaning products. So I'm probably my own best customer, and the only reason cleaning showed up that way is because it was me buying it. But yeah, I really liked that report. It helped me know where to focus next or where to shift my efforts when overcoming objections or trying to upsell a product and things like that.
Yeah, that is great. I love that report. Daryl and Tim kind of put that together. And yeah, I loved how they put that report together. The other thing, you guys, is go out and I'm sorry, but I'm always peddling Scentsy Club, but we've got about 150 some odd thousand people in club right now. It's almost all about your discontinued fragrances. Always Get My Bar. So of all the people in club, about 95% of them have bars on their order. And guess how many discontinued, what percent of those bars shipping through club are discontinued?
What?
It's about half. Like it's half or a little bit more than half of the bars that we're shipping through club are discontinued bars. So it is all about Always Get My Bar. And that way it's very, what we call in the industry, sticky. Nobody's going to cancel their club. Like, no, I would have to give up Jack's Obsession. I would have to give up my Dumbo bar. I'm not going to cancel my club, right? And so you've got these folks and they'll come in for different reasons. We have a number of people that come in because they want to always get that bar. You've got another group of people who come in because of whiff box. About 70% of the people, 70% of whiff boxes go through club. And of all those 150,000 people in club, about 42% of them have whiff box on their club. The cool thing about that is this. Almost every single one of those is every month. So if you have customers that are getting their club every 3 months, guess what? If you get them hooked on Whiffbox, they move their club to every single month. And now they've got to get more products on that club and more money to you, right? Because they're like, okay, I've got to get whip box and I got to get it every month because otherwise I'm going to miss out. So I'm going to do that. Now I want to make that my half price item. Okay, so I have to set it aside and I have to get $60 worth of product. Well, I'll take that, and I'll take that. Oh, I'm up to $60. Okay, laundry, clean, it's all in there, good. Now I can put my whip box every month as my half price item. And now, because they've got all that in there, oh, they're not canceling that. And so now you've moved somebody that's every 3 months to be every month, and it's $60 plus a whip box every single month. And so it's these strategies like that that are just going crazy out there.
So I
But
love
yes,
that
it's
information.
fun.
So for the, how do I get someone to, join the club? Then listen to this data and understand that 70%, almost 70% of whip boxes are traveling through Scentsy Club. So that would definitely be a marketing strategy for you to have to say, okay, if I want to get someone to join the club, let me start with the whiff box and also start with the half off, item. And then all of a sudden that bumps them up to $60, So that's really, really awesome data. I want to toss this around to the panelists before we conclude the evening, because I'm just looking at the chat and looking at our messages, and they're all just like, my mind is absolutely data blown. So let me circle over to Kelly Rochelle. Kelly, what feedback do you have?
Hi, Michael. You are my favorite person in the whole world to get emails from weekly.
Oh,
You are the best. I never delete yours, ever. But since we're talking about you making things happen, what does it look like to get some toppers on them trucks for them Christmas trucks that are going to be coming out at the holidays? I need some toppers.
okay. I will talk to Carrie about that. She's the one that drives that decision. I will say this. I forgot something earlier too. What is the number one thing that we look to in future products as to what partners to go after next, what future products to do, anything like that? Idea share. So we look at idea share. I download a report every single month, send it out to just about everybody in the company, which is, here are the top ideas on idea share, right? And so that's one of them that is a big idea on idea share. And we're trying to always look at what those things could be. So yeah, I will mention that to Carrie tomorrow and see if we can get some toppers on there. But what kind of toppers are you looking for?
Motorcycle specific. I'll take a Christmas tree, some pumpkins. I really don't care. But that motorcycle, I need my fingers on that one.
Okay.
I'll be watching my Christmas list. Thank you.
Okay. And the emails she's talking about. So we also send out emails to the SSDs because they're under non-disclosure, and they are the ones who help us to understand, don't do Fat Thor. Like, no, do not do a Fat Thor, buddy. It's going to look stupid. Michael Borg, don't you dare, right? Whereas Ariel, absolutely, you definitely should do Ariel, that kind of stuff. So that, yeah, although Fat Thor, think about that. As a buddy, it's not even got the shape. It'd be awesome.
I bet you we could sell the crap out of some Aquaman. He can go with Ariel. They can date.
Yeah, put a hatchet in his hand. Anyway, yeah, it's about Aquaman. Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Let's go over to Dorothy. Dorothy, what question or feedback do you have as we end the evening with Mr. Borg?
First of all, I just want to say thank you for spending your evening with us tonight. And the one thing that just really, I know we've heard it before, probably some of us have, but what you had said, 70% of customers purchase only once. I think us as Scentsy consultants need to try to lower that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Absolutely.
Challenge accepted. Thank you, Dorothy. Okay, and then let's go over to DPP. How are you going to take this information and apply it to your business?
Thank you so much, Michael, for joining us. And I love the information that you shared about the whiff box, because that is going to be something that I'm going to focus on with my team to try to get them to get more people subscribed to the Scentsy Club with the Whiff Box, because I personally love it myself. So I'm thinking that's pretty awesome to know that so many people are getting these Whiff Boxes every month. That's great information.
That's awesome. Thank
Great.
you, Deb.
And let me also say that when they get Whip Box, what is Whip Box, right? It's a bunch of different products that they didn't know was coming. Well, they're going to use it. And that's when they find out they are addicted to washer whiffs or to clean or to laundry, all those products.
I love that.
Great. It's
Introducing
great.
them to new things. I love that. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm going to respond to Heather's question. She said, I wish that we can get those emails too down here. And let me tell you, you can. It is definitely an earned privilege that anyone can have access to. You just have to keep working that business and climb to the top, that NDA top, so that way you can also have access to that. So it's really a great perk and privilege as you're climbing the ranks. Okay, so we're going to end with Emily. Emily, what feedback do you have as we close Dreamstruck tonight?
Oh my goodness, so much good information. I will say I'm a big advocate for Club as well. I love it. I'm all about streamlining my business and all the little added perks along the way, like adding the points, referral points for people joining. And then actually, I don't know if you guys have caught this. I just happened to notice it today. I might be, maybe it's me who's out of the loop, but right now, any new Club subscribers in the month of August get 200 points for creating a new Club subscription. So what does that equal to? Well, we know that it's 25 points gives you $1 worth of credit. So that's $8. That's a free, well, in Canada, that's a free bar, but in the US, that's a bar and a bulb, I guess. But that's pretty significant. So tell all the people, make sure that they know. And again, as we're going through this incentive period, the more you can automate and sort of get people on a regular recurring shipment, it's going to make your job easier to focus on developing your consultants that join your team. So just to add a little bit too about the Whiff Box, what I like about the Whiff Box, I just had an event this past weekend. It was 4 days long, 12-hour days, and I'm tired. However, I will say that without the Disney partnerships, I probably only would have sold half of what I did had I not had a big collection of Disney buddies sitting on my table. It drew the people in, even though it wasn't necessarily what they bought. So I will say that is definitely, it just kind of, again, brought in that sort of demographic that I normally wouldn't see. And I certainly didn't see it at at the fair the year before COVID. So, and with the Whiff Box, it is great because if anybody is buying a Whiff Box, they should be in Club because Whiff Box automatically qualifies you for that 10% discount. And as Michael said, with all the different product offerings inside of the Whiff Box, it's basically giving your customers the opportunity to try those things, right? Like getting a counter cleaner, a flower or whatever. So yeah, look for any opportunity to help a customer see value inside of Club and get them going on that. So yeah, but this was great data. I loved it. I know that all of our teams loved it, and we look forward to chatting with you again and maybe getting some more insights on possibly new partnerships coming up in the future, if you're willing to divulge.
Yes.
Lacey is the one that gives away all the secrets. I try and stop her from winking, but it's never going to happen.
Well, Michael, if you can put a little bug in Carrie's ear about Snoopy. There's so many of us that love Snoopy, and I know that it's on Idea Share. So when you speak with her tomorrow, if you can just kind of whisper Snoopy and Peanuts in the game.
Snoopy Peanuts would be me. Got it. Absolutely. Yeah.
Listen, thank you so much for spending your evening with us. We hope to see you and your beautiful wife on the next cruise in 2023. Everyone go on Idea Share, wherever you need to go, and invite Mr. Borg back and his wife. We would love to spend more time with you all and getting to know you and speaking with your amazing wife. There are so many people that said in the chat, oh my gosh, me and her would be really best friends. So she's not as unusual as she might think she is. So anyway, thank you so much for blessing us. We really appreciate you. We appreciate the home office staff and everything that you guys do to help us and to advocate for us.
Always. Love you guys. Have a great evening.
You too. Love you too. Bye-bye.
Bye, Michael. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Thank you.